Do you know what are matchers in Jest? Matchers are special methods that we use to compare the output of our code against an expected outcome. In today's video, we're going to learn about two fundamental matchers, toBe and toEqual. So this is going to be our fourth video in this Jest video series. And today we're looking at understanding Jest matchers and how to compare values in our tests. And these are the two matchers that we're going to be discussing in this video. As I mentioned in the introduction of the video, a matcher is nothing but a method that we use to validate the output that's coming from our code to check it against an expected outcome. All right, so in this case, we have toBe and toEqual. This toBe matcher uses object that is behind the scenes to check if two things are the same object. In other words, to check if they have the same reference in memory. toEqual, on the other hand, still checks if two things are the same, but it doesn't care anything about memory location, as we're going to see in the next slide. And here we have the two matchers. We're going to see when is best to use each type. All right, in the first case, we have toBe, and this is used whenever we want to compare primitives. And here is what it checks. It checks the same value in memory using object that is. On the other hand, we have toEqual, and this is used for comparing objects or arrays. And as I mentioned earlier, this one doesn't care about memory location. It simply checks for structure and values inside those things that it's comparing. So we mentioned that toBe is used to compare primitives. Can you take a guess on how many primitives are in JavaScript? JavaScript has 7 primitive data types, and here they are listed on the screen. We have string, number, big int, boolean, undefined, null, and symbol. In the last video, I showed you how to add two numbers together and compare the outcome. In today's video, we're also going to revisit that. We're also going to take a look at how to use toBe and toEqual matchers with all of this. And this is what we looked at in the last video. We had this test right here, which was adding two numbers together. And we had the number 5 and the number 2. And then we added that and put that in the result here, the expected outcome. We also had this method right here called add inside of this calculator class, which was adding two numbers together right here. And then we use this toBe matcher to check that the outcome coming from the code was matching the expected value here. So because we are dealing with numbers here, which are primitive, that's why we're using this toBe method right here. Another primitive type is string. So in this case, I have this file right here, which has a test right here to capitalize the first letter on a word. Okay, so here we have two words. We have hello and hello again. The only difference is the first letter is lowercase in this case and then uppercase here. Then we're calling this method right here in this class called stringUtils, and the method name is capitalize. If we take a look at this method right here in this stringUtils class, we can see what it does right here. Basically, it's just going to take the first letter in that word that is coming in and it's going to capitalize it. The rest is going to be lowercase. So let's go back to the test over here. And we can see again, because we're dealing with primitive type, we're using toBe right here. Okay, so we're checking that this output over here that's going to come from this method is going to match the expected value, which is going to be hello. So we're turning this letter right here into a capital H. I'm going to go ahead and run my test suite just to show you guys that this is going to also work. So I'm going to hit Control-tilde here, and then I'm going to type in npm and then test. Obviously, this will run all the tests, including this one here. I just want to show you guys that this also works. So as we can see here, all of my tests are passing. So now that we have a good understanding of when to use this toBe matcher, let's take a look at when this matcher doesn't work. Okay, so far I've told you guys to use this one anytime you're testing primitives. So let's create a different test over here. In this case, I'm just going to copy this right here, and then I'm going to add a new test here. And let me just delete this for one moment here. And I'm just going to say here that we're going to be testing arrays. So let me go ahead and create two arrays here. I'm going to say const and then array1. Sure, we're going to accept this right here. And I'm going to show you guys what's going to happen in this case. So here we have two arrays, right? We can see that they're both exactly the same, right? They both contain the same information, 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Now we have this expect. We're going to check that the array1 is going to be equal to array2. But instead of using this toEqual, I'm going to say toBe, all right? And I'm going to show you guys what happens in this case. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. And then I'm going to save my code here. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this code. I'm going to show you guys that this test is going to fail. And as you guys can see right here, the test, we have one test failure. I'm going to scroll up over here And this is showing right here that we have a failure in this calculator test that tests, and this is the test that fails, the one that says arrays. And we know why this is failing, and that's because we're using toBe. Okay, that's the wrong matcher to be using with arrays. Okay, remember that toBe is checking memory location. Okay, so because we have two different objects here, they don't reside in the same memory location. It's two separate memory locations. Okay, so the contents may be the same, but it's not the same memory location. That's why this fails. Now we're going to fix this by changing this toBe into a toEqual. Okay, so we put toEqual here. Now this toEqual matcher, recall that it doesn't care about memory location. It's just going to check the contents of this array right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and give this test another run just to make sure that this is working properly now. So I'm going to go ahead and say npm and then test. And this time, notice that all the tests are passing again. So hopefully this is clear to you guys. The bottom line is essentially that you're going to be using this matcher right here toBe anytime that you're dealing with primitives. And then you're going to use the toEqual matcher whenever you're dealing with non-primitives, such as objects or arrays. Let's have a look at one more example of using toEqual. So let's go back over here to the string utils tests, and I'm going to create a new test right here. And we're going to call this one testing objects. All right, so let's go ahead and delete this. And I'm going to create two objects here. So my first object simply has the name Alice and age 30. The second object is the same thing, Alice and 30. Now, these have the same content, but they don't reside in the same memory location. So if I use this toEqual matcher, this is going to work because it's looking at these two objects and it's looking at the contents of the objects. It doesn't care about where they reside in memory, and this is going to work. All right, so let's go ahead and save this and then run it just to make sure. And as you can see, the tests are passing. Now let's go ahead and make this fail by changing this toEqual into a toBe. All right, we know now that this is going to fail because although these are the same content, they don't have the same memory location, which is what this toBe is going to be checking for as well. So let's go ahead and save this and run it again. And there we can see the test has failed. If I scroll up right here, this is going to show me which test is failing, which has to do with objects right here. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. Give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel. Also, check out the video description to learn about Lambda test certifications so you can get certified today.